Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultant channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And those of you who follow my channel probably realize that I have not made a video in several weeks. The reason for that is twofold. First of all, if you watch the last video I posted, it concerned trying to survive in this car in 2 weeks of sub-zero temperatures, down to minus 20, wind chills down to minus 40. And that took everything out of me to survive that, living in a car that has no heat or defrost or anything, while working for a living. Meanwhile, the people of Minnesota are enjoying their stimulus checks, free money from the government, which is paid for by people who work for a living like me. But because I'm homeless, I don't get a stimulus check. The other reason is because when I posted that video, I realized that it was video number 199. For the 5 years, I've been homeless for 6 years, living in this car. For 5 years, I've been making these videos, and I realized my next video is number 200, and I wanted to do something very special for that. Kind of my anniversary, you might say. That's 200 videos I've made under these conditions of duress, and I think a lot of my content on this channel is better than many, if not most, of the videos that get 1 million views on YouTube. People doing stupid, silly things. People watching video games and commenting on them. They get 30 million views. I get 10 to 50 views while I talk about real issues that actually matter to real people. So I decided for my 200th video I was going to do something very fun and exciting. And I've been working on that for several weeks. And it's a pretty ambitious project. But something has come up in this great state of Texas that has forced me, as if I don't have enough things to worry about, I now have to abandon my 200th video as being something special, an anniversary edition, and I have to post this video instead, because what's going on in Texas is extraordinarily evil and dangerous. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. I'm talking about House Bill 1925, 1925 in the state of Texas. This bill was authored by a state representative named Giovanni Capriglione. It is called a bill to be entitled An Act Relating to Prohibitions on Camping in Public Place, creating a criminal offense. And I would like to add, I'm going to have to kind of translate and interpret the verbiage in this bill so that you can understand what the truth actually is, because the bill's worded in such a way as to misrepresent the truth, shall we say. So let me rephrase that. Creating a criminal offense where there was no offense before. I just wanted to add that in because it's important. What is the offense that they're creating, that Capriglione wants to create? Well, basically he's going to criminalize being homeless. Do I need to continue with this video, or is that enough? I'll continue. It criminalizes people who simply have no place to live for existing in public. If this sounds familiar, then you do know the history of the 20th century, don't you? If we take a look at this bill, the first thing they do is they do their definitions. Legislators have to define everything, and they actually had to define the word shelter. This is a shelter, this car that I live in. It protects me from the rain. It protects me, well, it doesn't really protect me from lightning. I guess technically it might. Depends on how it struck. It protects me from predators, especially human predators, which, as my videos have shown, 200 videos now, have demonstrated over and over and over and over again, the people who are a threat to me, more than 99% of them, almost every single one of them that is a threat to me, are housed. They are not homeless. The homeless people have never been a threat to me. They might be an annoyance, they might be a nuisance. Very rarely, if ever, have they been a threat to me. Housed people are a threat to me all the time. So that's what a shelter is. That's not how they define shelter, but they see things in a different way. You might watch my video where I talked about how Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota does not fathom the way that other people who are not him, live differently than he lives. See, it's called empathy. It's something that human beings have. Animals don't have it, but human beings do. Actually, a couple animals even have it, but a lot of the people in our society do not. Specifically, it outlaws in public, number 1, cooking. Let me finish the sentence, because Representative Capriglione did not, which is a manipulative tactic. There's a reason why he did not finish that sentence. Why do you cook, folks? You cook so that you can eat nutritious food, and that's what keeps you alive. That's what prevents you from dying. It's a biological necessity. It's part of the ecosystem of life on planet Earth. And it's been that way from the very beginning. But Representative Capriglione has outlawed it, or he wants to outlaw it, but only for a certain class of citizens. Not for his class, not the class that he comes from, but for my class, homeless people. But he just put in cooking. He left out the part about eating, because if you're a legislator and you're just reading through this thing quickly and you just see cooking, you're like, well, I don't want to see somebody out there cooking a burger on a little portable grill and all. They don't think, oh, but after they cook it, they're going to eat it, and that's what allows them to live. As in, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, those things that are guaranteed to us in this country. Number 2 is making a fire. Once again, Representative Capriglione left out some important details here. When he says making a fire, what do you picture? You picture a pyromaniac going out there and starting a barn on fire to get off on watching the flames. Well, when you're starting a fire, especially in, the state of Texas, a few weeks ago when they had a deep freeze and all of their infrastructure fell apart and people's homes are collapsing from within with all the freezing pipes, which, by the way, is because the Texas legislature, people like Representative Capriglione, don't know what they're doing. They're worried about stuff like this instead of basic fundamental infrastructure. And one of my 50 existential threats in my video posted a year and a half ago was unbelievably insane energy policy. And that had a lot to do with why so many Texans suffered and why so many people died in that deep freeze a few weeks ago. But he's not addressing that. He's talking about just making a fire. Why would you make a fire? Oh, one reason is so you can cook. And you cook so you can eat, so you can survive. Another reason you might start a fire is to stay warm in temperatures that are so cold that they're destroying suburbia in Texas. That's another reason you might want to start a fire. To survive, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Number 3, the thing that they're outlining, storing personal belongings. Representative Capriglione, I ask you a question. It's a simple question. Maybe you can get one of your small children to answer it if you're not able to. If you don't have a home, where do you store your personal belongings? Would you please answer that question? May I store mine in your home? Because you're trying to outlaw me storing my personal possessions in a public place, and I have nowhere to store it. So, may I store it at your home? Will you keep it safe? Can we sign a contract? Because obviously you would never outlaw people storing their personal belongings with them or where they're staying if they had an alternative, right? Or are you just a very cruel and vicious person who thinks that you're better, you're way up there, and homeless people are way down there? Number 4, digging. I don't even know what this guy's talking about. I've been homeless 6 years. I don't remember digging. I do remember, as my video, Fresh Garbage for the Homeless, demonstrated. Every week I have to go out and pick up all the garbage that all of these housed people, and in my case, housed professionals, keep throwing on the ground. They keep just throwing all their garbage, their trash, all over the ground. And I'm the one, the homeless guy, who goes out and picks it all up because I kind of like living in a clean area. Apparently they don't. So I don't know what he's talking about when it comes to digging. How about number 5? This bill will outlaw, in public, one class of citizen only, sleeping. What he left out of there, that other legislators are not going to read and therefore are not going to think about, is that sleeping is a biological necessity, just as certain as relieving yourself is a biological necessity. You can hold it in all you want. You can be like Tycho Brahe, who held in his need to urinate when he was at a party. You know, the great scientist. Capriglione is apparently a physicist. I hope you know who Tycho is. Tycho died because he held in his need to urinate too long and his bladder burst. That's what happens to people like me who have to hold it in all the time because we have nowhere to urinate. Likewise, we have nowhere to sleep. It's a biological necessity. You can try not to sleep, but at some point, you're going to fall asleep. The question is, am I going to fall asleep on a park bench where I've chosen the location? And by the way, while you're asleep, you're not a threat to anybody, are you? It's hard to imagine a human being other than a newborn baby in a cradle or in a manger being less of a threat to anyone than somebody who's asleep. But you see them as a threat somehow. Somehow them sleeping is a threat to somebody. It's a biological necessity that cannot be avoided. Sleep deprivation, however, on the other hand, is extraordinarily dangerous. It is, in fact, deadly to human beings. My former website that I had to get rid of when, coronavirus, shut down and all that, cost me everything, including my websites and URLs. My website was probably the premier place for collating all of the legitimate scientific research on the effects of sleep deprivation on human beings. But what do I know? I'm a homeless person. Representative Capriglione is so above everyone else that he can dictate the terms of existence for just one class way down here at the bottom feeders, the scum of the earth. He can do that. From up above, where God sits, he can do that. And anyone else who votes on this bill, they're all just hovering up there with God, just got their arm around God. Hey, what's up, God? I don't like these, I don't like this particular class of citizen. Let's do something about them, shall we? This is an act of pure hatred, folks. This is an act of pure hatred. It is the definition of osteophobia. The visceral, just bile-spitting, instinctive hatred of people for no other reason than because they don't have a home. They are the most deprived and vulnerable people in our society. The very people who a humane society would take care of. But he wants to attack them instead. He wants to target them like a laser beam. Can you imagine if he posted a bill like this that said, gays and lesbians will not be allowed to cook in public? Gays and lesbians will not be allowed to start a fire when it's cold outside. Gays and lesbians will not be able to bring their personal possessions and leave them and have them with them. And if they walk away to maybe go for a walk and they leave their stuff when they're coming back, if you're gay and lesbian only, it's illegal. You're gay and lesbian, you can't dig. I still don't know what he's even talking about there. And if you're gay and lesbian, you're not allowed to sleep in public. Can you imagine if Capriglione posted a bill that said, women are not allowed to cook in public. Women are not allowed to make a fire when it's cold outside. Women are not allowed. You see the point I'm making. If you don't see the point I'm making, then let me try just one more. What if he made a bill that said Jews are not allowed to cook in public? What if he made a bill that said Jews are not allowed to make a fire to stay warm? What if he made a bill that said Jews are not allowed to drive a car? Are not allowed to ride a bicycle through town? What if he made a bill that said Jews must register with the government? Because you know what they're saying this is for? They're claiming that this bill is to, how do they put it? This is insane. Redirect homeless people to services. In other words, send all of those homeless people to the government where they must register. Just like the first law that attacked the Jews in Nazi Germany forced them to register with the government so that the government could identify who the Jews were. When you go to social services, I've got 200 videos here, and so many of them a huge number of them, talk about what an absolute fraud and a farce social services is. It's a complete waste of money. It's a complete waste of time. It targets poor and homeless people and exploits them. And the only people who benefit from it are the people who run social services, who run the government agencies, and the legislators who are part of this money scheme that puts a loaded gun to taxpayers' heads and forces them to give them their hard-earned money, and then it's given round robin to these social services and kicked back to the legislators. And what do those social services and government agencies do? The very first thing you walk in the door, watch my videos. The first thing when you walk in the door, let me take down all of your personal information. Register with the government. Imagine if he created a law that said Jews cannot do this and Jews must register with the government. If you can't imagine it, then just read a history book from around 1938. This bill is an act of pure hatred. This bill itself, this bill is a crime against humanity. It's a hate crime against humanity. It's a hate crime against the homeless. And Representative Capriglione should be held accountable for what he's doing. This is a hate crime against the homeless. And anybody who votes for this bill deserves to be held accountable in the same manner. This is a bill that says we personally don't like that class of citizen. Now, according to our founding documents and our founding fathers, all men are created equal and are endowed by certain inalienable rights. The fact that we are a human being gives us those equal rights. Period. End of story. But Capriglione says, no, he's going with the Orwell Animal Farm definition instead. Not our founding fathers, but Orwell's. You remember? All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And in so doing, Capriglione is behaving like an animal, not like a human being. He can put on a suit and a tie. He can have better hair. He can get his hair cut where I can't. But he's behaving like an animal. A vicious, predatory animal that targets one class of citizen, frankly, as we're going to see, for extermination. You know, the genocides of the 20th century, the first thing you had to do was you had to find a way to make people hate and despise and fear the class of citizen that you wanted to destroy. The Jews they weren't just perfectly normal members of German society, they were integral parts of the society. They were the leaders. They were leaders in education and science and everything, business. They made Germany the powerhouse, the most prosperous and modern nation in the world at the time. But in just a few short years, using rhetoric and propaganda and leaving out things like Capriglione did here, where he puts in cooking, but he doesn't put in the word eating. By doing little manipulative things like that, he convinced a lot of Germans to hate the Jews for no reason. And I can't believe we're seeing this not only in the United States of America, but in Texas. Texas voters, I hope you're watching this video. All men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. God says, I am equal to Representative Capriglione. But apparently, he feels he's better than me, because if I was in Texas, according to his law, I would be arrested and booked and have a criminal record because I fell asleep? People testifying on behalf of this bill include business leaders, if you can call these people leaders. Personally, I call human beings leaders. I don't call animals leaders. But apparently they do in the state of Texas. People at conference centers and things coming in saying, oh, these homeless people are scaring off our customers. You know what? Those homeless people are equal to you. They're equal to you. They are equal to you. They are equal to you. And you can't seem to figure that out. If your customers or your patrons at a conference center have a problem and they're walking by another human being and they feel a sense of disgust, guess what? Your patron is the problem, not the person they hate. Your customer, your patron, is full of hatred. They think they're better than everyone else. All animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others. They are the problem, not the homeless person who's just sitting there. Do you understand this, Representative Capriglione? Do you understand this? It requires some brain power to think about, but you're a physicist. Can you understand what I'm saying? Or are you demon-possessed? I don't understand how you can claim to be a member of the human race and basically take Hitler's first laws against the Jews and scratch out Jew and put in homeless person. I don't understand how you can do this with a straight face. What kind of a person are you? Another one of my existential threats, 50 existential threats to the existence of the United States of America. I already had bad energy policy, which this guy's a part of, as we saw with the fiasco in Texas a few weeks ago. Another one is the homeless holocaust. This is legislating, it isn't just legalizing, but it's mandating the homeless holocaust. Maybe that's why I put it in my 50 existential threats. So far, Representative Capriglione is responsible or part and parcel to 2 of my 50 existential threats. And what do you know? He's part of more of them as well. And I need to make an important point here. Representative Capriglione is so-called a successful businessman, and he's also apparently a physicist. On his website, he claims that he wants to be in office to stop wasteful government spending and to make sure that your tax dollars are being spent properly, presumably to lower your taxes if possible. That's what his website says, but let's see what's actually happening here. One of my 50 existential threats to America, threats to the very existence, continued existence of the United States as the great nation it has been, was our inability to understand, our ignorance of, our denial of the law of supply and demand. He's a physicist, right? In physics, Isaac Newton discovered the mathematical constructs that describe how gravity functions. And it happens that way every single time. That's why it's called a natural law. If you don't believe me, the next time you're in an airplane, try to do something different. Open the door and see what happens. Take a step outside for some fresh air. See what happens. My bets are on the laws that Newton described. When you violate the natural law of supply and demand, the fundamental law that dictates how economics itself works, there are serious consequences. And I would expect someone who wants to be your leader to fully understand how the basic fundamental law of economics works. But we have a problem here, folks. If he's trying to stop wasteful government spending and he's trying to make sure your taxes aren't going out of control, why is he taking something that was not a crime yesterday and making it a crime tomorrow? Because when it wasn't a crime yesterday, things go on as it was. Once it's a crime, guess what? You need police. You need more police. You need the administrative people in the police department. You need the janitors at the police department for all this overtime, all this extra work they're doing, arresting and processing homeless people for existing. You need courts. You need more courts. You need more judges. You need more judge time spent. You need more stenographers writing down what's said in the courtroom. You need more janitors for the courts. You need more administrators in the courts. Do you see where I'm going with this? You need more social services. The point of this supposedly is to move homeless people into social services, which is a complete and utter fraud. It hurts homeless people more than it helps them, but for people who make money off of social services, they want more social services. All of this costs money. It's the law of supply and demand. By definition, if you take something that was not legal before, or that was legal before, and you make it illegal tomorrow, there's administrative cost to enforcing that new law. Duh. And in this case, with the numbers of homeless people you're dealing with and the amount of system and bureaucracy that's going to be needed to enforce this and administer this, the costs are absolutely outrageous. Social services is already the biggest part of, as far as I know, every state budget. Already. How are they going to pay for that? Is he just going to print money? Does he have a printing press in his basement and he passed another law that says I am allowed to print money? No one else is, but did he do that? Or are they going to raise your taxes to pay for it? Because the law is supply and demand. Somebody has to pay for it. Just like somebody has to pay for all these stimulus checks that you are getting. Somebody has to pay for it. So either he was lying when he said he's trying to stop wasteful government spending, in which case a liar has been elected, a hypocrite, a viper has been elected to public office to represent the people of Texas, or this man does not understand the fundamental, basic fundamental laws. It would be like a physicist not understanding Newton's law of universal gravitation. There's a problem there, folks. Either way, there's a big problem. Either he's not telling you the truth, or he doesn't understand what he needs to understand to serve as your leader. And that's something you better think about before your taxes go up to pay for all this. Genocide begins when you outlaw the very public existence of the group of people that you hate. Every tyrant in history has used rhetoric and manipulative language to phrase what they're doing as if they're helping people instead of hurting people. It's always to help the German people that we have to get rid of these foul, filthy, disgusting Jews. It's to help you. It's to help you. The reason you have to wear underwear on your face today, it's to help you. 200 videos, and so many of them talk about what a fraud social services is. And this bill claims to want to help homeless people by sending them to that very fraud, that very machine that benefits nobody but the people who shuffle all this money back and forth between business and social services and legislators like Representative Capriglione. Now, I'm not just trying to target Representative Capriglione, but he's the one who authored this. He is the uncaused cause of this hate crime against the homeless. So I'm going to look at him, and I should. If you had a problem with the Nazi Party, you better look at Hitler, because he's the guy running that show. You better look at what kind of a person he is. When I went to Capriglione's website, it had the standard stock photography stuff, him standing there all dressed nice with a nice haircut that I can't get. Standing there among other really nice looking, I think, white people. He might have had his tokens in there of different races and colors, but, you know, the same old marketing nonsense. But he talked about being trustworthy, and we're going to see about that in a moment. He talked about being a successful businessman. Really? We'll see about that. He said he claims to care about cutting government spending and waste. He claims to care about saving taxpayer dollars. He also brings in his family. I don't want to touch another person's family. Family's very important to me, but when someone exploits their family, I get really upset. I can't have a family. I'm homeless. I can't have a family. I can't have that. I can't enjoy that. And this guy's bringing out his children, little tiny kids who don't know anything about the world they live in. He brings them out and puts them on camera. That is exploitation of his children to get elected to public office, and it sickens me. He has a family. I can't. And he exploits his children. I would protect my children. He does not allow comments. He does not allow likes and dislikes, thumbs up and thumbs down on his videos. What is he hiding? I allow comments. I allow likes and dislikes. I've even got these stalkers, these trolls, who come in and within maybe 2 to 5 minutes of me posting a video, they'll lay all these thumbs downs on my video. They're just psychopaths, just stalkers, the kind of people you see in these serial killer videos. Just nut jobs. They actually have they stare at their phone and they have it set to tell them when a homeless guy who only gets 10 or 50 views per video has posted his video, and then within minutes, whatever they're doing in the bathroom, in a meeting, if these people have a job, I doubt it, but somehow, some way, they're able within a couple of minutes to go in and throw a thumbs down on a video they haven't watched. Just stalking bat guano crazy lunatics. But I allow comments and I allow them to put a thumbs down on it. Why doesn't Capriglione? What is he hiding? What doesn't he want people to put on those comments? It's a question Texas voters might want to ask. This homeless guy does it. Why doesn't he? He's the successful businessman. He's right. He's up there with his arm around God, looking down on people and saying, that particular group needs to go. What do you say, God? Let's do it. Let's do it together. So why doesn't he allow comments if he's that much of a success story? I'd like to point out one thing. Successful business leader. My first videos, my very first videos on this channel were entitled, it was a series called How Not to Do Business. If you watch those videos, I think you will find that I know a thing or two about business. I know a thing or two about doing good, profitable business in a humane, ethical, and moral manner. So how did this guy become a successful businessman? Well, back in 2009, for one example, back in 2009, he received $30 million in corporate welfare from the Obama administration. Folks, I'm telling you right now, when I went to social services trying to get help, and they might offer me a gift card for $20, as long as I put my name in their database, which will pretty much guarantee I never get a professional job again or an executive job again. With having my name associated with all this poverty and welfare that I'm not even taking, to get a $20 gift card. If someone gave me $30 million and you came back 1 year later, I can guarantee you, you would look at me and you would describe me as, quote, a successful businessman. Because I know how to make $30 million work. I don't know how to make $17.27, which is taxed, work when it comes with a bunch of strings attached from social services and the government. And neither does any of America's 4 million homeless people know how to make that work. Is he really a successful businessman? When you're given $30 million in corporate welfare. I have not taken welfare. I have not taken unemployment. Even when the coronavirus fiasco, the health scare, shut down everything, and I was the only person in my office who lost his job because I was the only person who could not work at home. Even then, I did not take unemployment. I did not get, and I didn't ask for, I didn't want a stimulus check. I didn't take any corporate welfare at all. I didn't take any welfare at all. I lived off my savings and I sold what I had worked to earn to stay alive. And I almost died, but I did it with dignity. He accepted $30 million in welfare, and he has the audacity to tell you that he's a successful businessman. Give me $30 million, and you will see what a successful businessman looks like. Or do you hate homeless people? And you just make an assumption that that could never happen. Something you might want to think about in the privacy of your own home after watching this video. See, hatred is learned. Hatred is learned, and that means hatred is taught. You don't, little babies, little kids playing together, they don't care if you're black or white or what you look like. When I have this lazy eye, when I was a kid, nobody cared. Nobody cared about it. You got to a certain age before people started making fun of me because I had a lazy eye. Little kids don't know the difference at all. They're taught how to hate. They're taught who to hate. Who's doing the teaching here? Seems like people like Representative Capriglione and the people who are coming and testifying on behalf of this hate crime bill of his, this hate crime against the homeless, these convention center executives and such. Watch my first videos on business and you tell me who's a better businessman, who's more successful, who understands business better, him or me. Does it sound ludicrous because I live in a car and he probably lives in a mansion? If that's what you think, then you don't understand how this world works, do you? The key point is ethical and moral business. I don't accept welfare. Because welfare is money that other people work to earn, and they should keep that money. You as a taxpayer should keep your money. It should not be stolen from you at gunpoint by the government and given to people like, not the homeless. We don't get jack. It's given to people like Capriglione, $30 million. And then another thing that really bothered me here when I saw that he was married. My computer has a Bible in it. I don't have a Bible handy right here. It's packed out. On this Bible, in this computer, I say to you, this is the first thing I thought of. I swear to God, the first thing I thought of, the instant I saw that he was married, Capriglione was married, I thought of Bashar al-Assad's wife. He's the president of Syria, or he's the puppet of Syria, but he was the president of Syria before Vladimir Putin came in and basically neutered him, and Iran came in and castrated him, and Erdogan came in. You see what I mean? He's a puppet now, but when the Syrian civil war started, Bashar al-Assad was slaughtering his own people. Tens of thousands, I don't know, it might have rolled over into the millions. He's a Hitler type. He's a genocidal maniac. And laying next to him in his bed every single night is one of the most beautiful first ladies in the world. This man is committing atrocities that put him on an evil level playing field with Stalin and Hitler. And this beautiful woman is so concerned with herself, it's all about her, that she will overlook what a monster she's sleeping next to. She'll overlook the threat of having a genocidal maniac next to you when you close your eyes and go to sleep. What's this guy going to do to you while you're sleeping? If he'll go out and slaughter tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of his own people. The first thing I thought of when I saw that this guy was married, that's how serious his crime against the homeless is. A crime against humanity. I don't even know what to think. And the last thing in his profile that disgusted me was he says he's active in his church. Now, he didn't tell you what church he's a part of. Based on his behavior, given the fact that the Bible, from start to finish, mandates that you must help the poor, the homeless, the widow, the orphan, that you are obligated to, and you are supposed to do so with a joyful heart, grateful to God, on your knees, grateful to God for the opportunity and the privilege that God has blessed you so much that you can help your fellow human being in this manner. Likewise, the Bible from start to finish damns people who refuse to do that, or people who actively seek to hurt and to harm and oppress and exploit the poor, the homeless, the widow, and the orphan. I don't know what church he's a part of. He didn't bother to tell us. But I have to wonder if it's something like the Church of Satan. I don't know of any other church that so actively pursues the polar opposite of what the Bible commands you to do. Maybe he'll tell us which church he's active in at some point. If this bill had passed in Judea 2,000 years ago, quite literally, by the letter of the law that Capriglione wrote, Jesus and his disciples would have been arrested. They would have been arrested on the Mount of Olives. They would have been arrested any of those 3.5 years during Jesus' ministry because they were homeless. They wandered around as a group. They started fires to stay warm and to cook. They cooked in public. They slept. They stored their possessions there. They might have even dug holes. I still don't understand that one at all, but maybe they dug a hole at some point for some reason. This bill would have outlawed Jesus. Who outlawed Jesus 2,000 years ago? It was the Pharisees. It was the hypocrites and vipers who ran the show. The leaders. The false leaders, the ones who Jesus went in and in a rage overthrew the tables to cleanse his Father's temple of this demonic impurity of these hypocrites and vipers who were in the leadership. And that's why they killed Jesus. That's why they put him on the cross when even the Roman governor did not want to do it. He said, I see no wrong with this man. But those leaders were so threatened by that guy who did nothing but tell the truth about what kind of human monsters they were, that they wanted him dead. I'm a homeless guy telling the truth on this channel. Capriglione is trying to create a law that would outlaw my existence if I live this exact same way in the state of Texas. And he's active in his church? Which church are you active in, Mr. Capriglione? And keep in mind, if you are a member of the Church of Satan, one of the things you're allowed to do is to lie. For example, lying about what your true religion is. I just want to throw that out there so people know. I don't know. He might be a Pentecostal, he might be this, that, and the other thing, but if this man thinks that if he died today, that God is going to welcome him with open arms and say, oh, there's the guy who did exactly the opposite of what I told everyone to do throughout the Bible, exactly the opposite of what I demonstrated when I walked the earth as Jesus, the way that I helped everybody who asked me for help. And I told everyone, I told that rich leader, sell everything you have and give it to the poor and follow me, behave like me. But he refused to do it. And then I said, it is more difficult for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. I'm not sure what religion this person adheres to. And the people of Texas I've always seen as being more or less good Christian folk. You elected this person to represent you, to represent who you are. He is your representative of who and what you are, what you believe, how you behave, how other people should be treated. He literally represents you. Because this monster literally represents you, and you chose him to represent you. He is in your place. The magnitude of self-aggrandization that this guy has demonstrated in a nation where all men are created equal is a cause for alarm. It is not acceptable. Anyone like this who puts himself so far above another class of citizen, whether it's gay and lesbian, women, the handicapped, Jews, whatever, who puts himself up there and says, I can dictate the terms of existence for this class of citizen. My class gets to do what they want to do, but not this one, because I personally don't like them. I personally have a problem with them. My cronies, my friends at the convention center and the hotels, we have a problem with it. And we're better than them, so we're going to dictate how things go. That's a cause for alarm, folks. The magnitude of callous inhumanity and disregard for human life that this guy is demonstrating is a red flag warning sign of his character and of his trustworthiness. And the first thing you see when you go to his campaign video is the word trust. Remember, hypocrites and vipers lie. This magnitude of crime against humanity cannot be tolerated in the United States of America. It is literally, if you know history, it is literally following the playbook of how other groups, not just the Jews, the Armenians, all of them, all the ones who had genocide committed against them, for the most part. It's following the same playbook. Representative Capriglione, I pray to God that you will open up your heart, that you will repent for what you're doing, that you will get on your knees and shed tears over what you have become, that you will look in a mirror and see what has possessed you. I hope you will be saved. You see, I look at you as my equal. I don't look at you from above and say, I'm worse, you're better, you're worse than me, I'm better than you. You can just go to hell. I don't want you to go to hell. But based on what you're doing right now, repent. 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 Representative Capriglione. And to the voters of the state of Texas, I urge all of you to repent as well. You need to recall Representative Capriglione, get him out of office as fast as is humanly possible to save the lives of the homeless people in Texas. This bill outlaws their very existence. I just want to leave you with one last question. Imagine that you have a widow and her children outside on a park bench. They just got thrown out of their apartment by a vicious landlord. Just like the landlord who threw me out of my place illegally. But if you look at my story, all the people in power, all the leaders, my landlord, the police, all the way up to the governor's office, not one of them would enforce the law on behalf of me because he broke the law. They would enforce the same law for their own friends, for themselves, for their people who they knew and cared about, but they would not do anything for me. And that's why I'm living in a car 6 years later. So imagine that she got thrown out like that, through no fault of her own, and nobody would help her. Two people walk up to this widow and her little children out there on the park bench. The first one says, "Why don't you get a job?" and spits on them. And as they walk away, they call the police and say, "Get these people out of my sight. I don't want to smell them. I don't want to see them." That's the first person. The second person walks up and says, oh my gosh, you need help." And he goes and gets them some food, and he gives them blankets to keep warm. And he takes them and he welcomes them into his home, and where they can shower and bathe, and they can get their health back and get well fed again. And then the widow can go out and get a job, and she can earn money so that she can get out and get a place to live again and take care of her family again. Those are the two people who went up to this widow and her children. My question to you, voters of Texas, is simply this. Which one of those two people does your representative, Giovanni Capriglione, resemble the most? Which one of those two people does he resemble based on what he is doing with this bill, HB1925? I leave it to the people of Texas to do the right thing in this case. I'm very sorry I had to waste my 200th anniversary video on something like this when I had something so fun planned. But this bill is evil, and it needs to be stopped. Please, people of Texas, stop it.